Sophia Chang hails from the borough of Queens, New York, and within just 2 decades, she's championed a name for herself in the art, design, and streetwear community worldwide. She's also collaborated and worked with iconic brands across multiple industries like Nike, Refinery 29, Apple, HBO, and the NBA, to name a few. As a gifted multimedia storyteller, she is the epitome of the modern Asian female. And in our conversation, we get really raw and share the truths about motherhood, about navigating postpartum, and the intense isolation and loneliness of this journey. And we anchor into why sharing our stories is what helps with embracing the mindset of agency, of choice, and living it. This is a conversation unlike one that I've had on Asian Like Me, covering topics about modern mothering, being a rule breaker, and it's so filled with wisdom that it's the first two-part podcast drop. Are you ready for part one? Let's drop in.
Welcome to Asian Like Me, presented by me, Dr. Sohee Jun, the podcast for the modern Asian woman redefining what it means to thrive. I've spent years navigating the complexities of culture, family expectations, and career ambitions. Here, we have real, unfiltered conversations with incredible women who are breaking barriers, charting their own paths, and owning their power. Together, we'll dive into the wins, the lessons, and the challenges we all face. And yeah, we'll laugh. We'll share stories and drop some actionable tips to help you crush it in your own way. This is your space to feel seen, heard, and inspired. Ready to rewrite the rules? Let's drop in.
For the listeners, just to ground them, Sophia, you and I have had many conversations. So you came to New York, and how did you find your way into this beautiful career in storytelling and brand and all of the great clients that you get to work with? I mean, that's a big story, but take us through that journey. How did you find your way into a career that isn't typically Asian?
Yeah, it's so funny because I was thinking about that literally this week. I don't know, random reflective thoughts coming past my brain. New York is all like five senses all the time in so many ways, right? It's like the sights, the sounds, the people. I grew up in Flushing, Queens, which in the mornings, if you're commuting, they're washing the fish market. So all the smell is it's just it smells, you see people, you hear the things. Maybe you're eating something on your way to your commute. There's just so much all the time.
Very visceral.
And, I'm an only child. And as a parent now, obviously reflecting a lot on my childhood. Aside from academics, I just had no tether for the most part. I mean, safety to some extent, but got to ride my bike. I got to go rollerblade. I got to just somehow show up and be back home. And I think that just gave me a lot of room to explore identity. And I grew up in a very traditional Asian household, very hyper academically forward, where from the age of 5, 6, every Saturday I was in Chinese school from 9 to 12.
Oh, wow.
And then when I got into my grade school years from 12 to 6, I was in math, science, English, whatever the hell that stuff was, which I barely paid attention in all of them for the 12 years that my parents paid for all these extracurricular classes.
Wow.
And I photoshopped my SATs is how things ended up. But
wait, what? Back up. What is the story there?
So one day when I was maybe 10 or 11, my dad came home with a ripped CD version of Photoshop. And I got Photoshop on my computer.
Oh.
And I I wouldn't say I necessarily drew on it. Maybe I messed around with MS Paint. It's not easy with a keyboard. But I think at some point, I would mess with it here and there. Maybe I would be like, what would I look like if I had blonde hair? I'd have Photoshop. That's what I used Photoshop for. When I was maybe 12, 13, I'd take a photo on a Canon little power shot.
Yeah.
And be like, what would I look like if I had a nose ring? Or what if I colored my eyebrows a certain way?
I love it.
Random stuff like that. So that was early days Photoshop. And Photoshop is truly many applications. It's just messing around and exploring and making mistakes. And to this day, I make mistakes in it. And I'm I just learned something new. How fun. I just press some random button.
Okay. I love the reframe on mistakes. The way that you tell it.
All about it. All about it. But to answer your original question, how it came about was just, being in this very immersed environment. And my parents were also non-traditional. My dad To some extent. My dad is a civil engineer, so he worked on the bridges and overpasses in New York. That's why we were there. And then my mom actually was a singer. So it was a very rags to
Wow.
riches story. She was an entertainer and singer. And, you know, she had her own career in her, I think she started when she was 16, 17 up until she had me. And she gave up her career after she had me because they started getting too attached to, like, I guess, a nanny caretaker that they had at the time. She decided to give up and just be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Really. She is a very charismatic woman, right? I don't give a fuck about anything.
I love
fucking
that.
care less. Like, she's driven down one-ways before, and I'm like, oh my God, Mom! You know, and she's like rolled down the window. Like, even to this day, her English is good enough, but she knows her curse words really well.
I love it.
And so, like, I think at an early age, especially being a woman, like, had the modeling of a I don't give a fuck type of
I have the sense, Sophia, that you take after her.
Yes, to some extent I do. And then she also has very conservative values as well.
I love the juxtaposition of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of, like, polar. And then my dad's he's basically like a mathematician, which I'm not at all.
Yeah.
But my mom is very much like a hustle woman. Like, we'd go to Macy's and she'd have cash in her bra, you know, but she'd look like a very elegant, like, well-poised woman as well. She's got a little bit of hood in her.
Yeah.
A little bit of street.
You know what I have been reflecting on with that as it relates to our parents, like what the parts that they leave with us and the imprints. And I'm wondering for you, what in your soul feels like is natural to you? Is it more of the artistic side? I'm sure you have your dad's imprint in some ways.
Yeah, I think from him, I pulled, like, aspiring for punctuality. You know, punctuality was always very important in our family, at least for him. Planning, and I think a level of, like, planning and anxiety I probably got from him, too.
The anxiety with it, too.
The check boxes being checked off in order to execute. Which is, again, the good and the bad, because that makes me very efficient and, like, good at planning and organizing, but at the same time, there's a little bit of anxiety that comes with it.
Oh, yeah. I love this. We're sitting outside, so there's birds and
A little bit of
tissues and allergies.
Yeah.
And this is the first time doing this outside, so thank you for doing that with me.
This is fun.
So say more. Also, in this, like, I'm always curious about what gives people hope these days, because there obviously is a ton going on. We're in the middle of war right now.
Yeah.
In my years living, I'm like, how many have I seen and experienced and witnessed? And what gives you hope these days?
It's so funny. This morning, I was in the kitchen getting my son out the door. And I was thinking about how I would answer that question. I was thinking, like, hope would be just hope. The fact that there can be hope and that hope is an option. I like that. I'm going to run with that one.
Say more.
Early motherhood was very challenging. I had really bad postpartum. It drove me to a point where I invested with a coach, a maternal mental health coach. Her name's Kate Kripke. And it was a very expensive program.
Yeah.
I did like 3 cycles of it, and it really rewired my brain in many ways, especially things that I grew up with as an Asian woman. One thing right off the bat that I learned was agency and choice. Because growing up with immigrant parents, you eat what's in front of you. You just do it.
Do what they say.
Just do it. You don't question. You don't blah, 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 which makes us so great in certain ways, right? My resilience is through the roof, you know, what I'm willing to tolerate to some extent, you know, discomfort, whatever. But it also wired me in a way, when it helped me push myself in moments that I needed it, right? Whether it was professional or in my academic years. But it also didn't serve me in so many ways, as I feel like as I got older, because I had to learn how to give myself agency and choice. And so the question of what do I hope for, I can actually choose hope. What do I want to choose today? My son just started school finally, because I'd been with him for 3 years, a lot, working and, you know, freelancing while he's napping and being full-time mom, switching gears nonstop and housework and all the things.
I know that very well.
Yeah. And you had 3.
Yeah.
So God knows how that was like. And so I went through kind of like I already had a list of like all the things I would fantasize about it. Like, what would I do once he started school? What would I do at the house? What would I do with my time? And all these things. I love living in a place of what if. And I started this journey, a very healing journey of choosing joy. Did I tell you about this?
No, but we need to talk about this, because that is literally my middle name.
That was my first barometer. I don't know where it came up from, but it was just like, after a long day, I can either watch 90 Day Fiancé, you know, eat some food, or go to bed because I'm freaking tired. So what would help me decide is what would bring me joy in this moment. I do need to sleep, and I also want to just unwind, you know? And so it would just be like, what would bring me joy in that moment?
Yeah.
I would choose that.
Yeah.
And I'm starting, and then at some point I lost it. And now I'm just slowly trickling it back into my thought process. And it became a very regular thing in the beginning. And I really started to notice it in my subconscious. Like there was just an extra layer, like a thin mattress padding of like joy that I was able to tap into. And it very quickly, as you know, if you're into neuroscience and like shaping the way we think and building these new neural pathways, it was a vibe. But yeah, just giving myself agency and choice again and knowing that in these moments, there's so many things I learned from that coach. But in these moments, there's many moments. There's always agency. There's always choice. You can always choose. That's very empowering and shifts your entire like body chemistry and state of being. And then also another fun tidbit, I'm sure I'll mention her many times, is just the idea of both and.
Oh, yeah.
So trying to minimize our buts in our sentence structures and narratives and replacing it with an and. Like you can both be really, really fucking tired and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Right?
You are like my long-lost sister. So
let's do this all the time.
Yeah. Well, my mindset is all about what's possible. So when I run up against like the no's, that's where I get the most triggered and frustrated because I do live in there's always a possible. Yes. And you get to choose within that, which is such an empowering place. I didn't get there until probably 5 years ago, really doubling down and doing the work myself of the work I do with my clients around mindset.
Yes.
And what you said about neuroscience and rewiring. And just yesterday, I was talking about that with a group of Asian professionals for a company around how to minimize the inner critic, which part of it is from our lived experience, from our family of origin. And sometimes it's their voice that we're grappling with. There's so many things you said in there. One, I want to go back to the maternal coach. I think it's great that you found somebody to help you through that. I also had postpartum. Did I share that with you?
No. With all three?
No. So I think this is important to share because one, I don't know that many women share stories like this.
I love talking about. I'm like the person.
Okay,
like,
let's go.
Just be as vulnerable and like
we are going deep. Look,
naked.
I know. So with my first, and I would love to see what your experience was like. My first, I had a boy. I had a week of just feeling really blue. And I remember sitting outside in front of my house with this big oak tree. Sitting at the base of it and just feeling like, why am I so sad when I should be so happy? The should kept ringing in my head.
Yeah.
It passed. With my daughter, I was on cloud 9. Something about the hormones of having a girl, I couldn't be any happier. Then with my third, Sophia, like literally, it hit me sideways, but not in the expected order. Because typically you hear of these things happening right after the baby. It hit me.
It can come months later.
It hit me at month 3 or 4. I was beside myself. Yeah. I was like, what is happening? My body was like wiry, anxious all around. I couldn't sleep.
Yep.
I was afraid to be near my child.
Yep.
Thank God I had my mom with me that entire time raising literally she raised him for the first year because I could not handle myself. Yep. Sad, anxious, not sleeping, not eating. On top of that, my whole physical body was changed by having a third child that I couldn't eat what I was eating. And moms, when they're having a baby, you have to eat, but I wasn't eating.
Yes. Yeah.
Compounding all of that, I just remember it being the darkest night of the soul I had until that point.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
It was so scary. And I felt so alone.
Yes.
And yes, I went into therapy. And yes, I looked at medication, of which I dabbled in, and nothing seemed to work for me. Yeah. And when he turned a year, something happened biologically, hormonally.
One day, you feel better.
I felt better. I was like, I feel like I'm coming back to myself. And it was that 1-year birthday for me with my third kid. What was your experience like?
Very similar. And that's probably why I only have one. That's why you have to have 3.
Yes.
But within the first few weeks, I had immense dread and fear. This extreme feeling of fear. And I'm not a fearful person. I also don't have a history, fortunately, of any type of mental health issues and things like that, or hormonal issues. I was very period was fine, was able to conceive naturally. Pregnancy was great. Birth was fine, for what it is compared to all the horror stories I've heard. But yeah, within first few weeks, I had extreme dread. This feeling of I'd just be walking in the street and I'd feel, my physical body would feel fear. And then I want to say I really hit rock bottom with the lack of sleep by month 3. And then we hired a sleep consultant. My husband also at the time was not very helpful. So in the beginning he wanted to be, but I think the sleep also just weighed on him too. So everyone's upside down.
Yes.
And my son was very screamy, not colicky. I later found out once he was verbal that he's just hungry all the time. He like needs so much protein. This kid has an insane metabolism.
How do you even solve for that?
And did not. And then plus you're healing. You just had birth. You're running off adrenaline. You're trying to figure out breastfeeding. That was also very traumatizing for me and terrible. And then it honestly lasted for a year and a half. And there were many mornings where I would wake up with extreme dread. Did you ever watch Get Out? Great movie. I love it.
It's animation, right?
No, it's a movie.
Oh, okay.
It's like a thriller movie.
Okay.
Really great. I love it. But there's a moment where you just feel like your whole world is just sinking. You're just sinking into the pits of darkness.
Yeah.
And that was me every single morning. I had panic attacks where my hands and feet would go numb, like intensely. And it was just like my body was just hijacking me. It was very paralyzing. It was very isolating. I had people tell me like, hey, motherhood is very isolating. And you're always having these moments where it's like happening in the middle of the night. And you're just alone with this kid. You know, my mom also wasn't particularly helpful, but my parents are in New York still. And then the worst part on top of it is you have a baby. I had a vaginal birth and we went back at 6 weeks for your checkup, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And there was at no point, well, first of all, my doctor was like, oh, are you guys having sex again and whatever? I'm like,
who
lady,
and what? No.
Like, I am a shell. Everything's upside down. Like, at no point was my mental health discussed. Granted, she is a physical health provider, so I think there's certain rules and regulations about that. But when we went in for my son's checkup, I got handed a form that was a postpartum form. I didn't realize I had postpartum until I started checking off all the boxes.
Oh, wow.
It was really, really bad. A lot of very dark thoughts, a lot of like very intrusive thoughts that many women go through.
Yes. I went through that too.
And I hand this paper back and there's nothing. There's no conversation. There's no packet handed to me as far as additional resources that you can seek out. Like, I had nothing, no resources. I like went to like our old therapist who's familiar with me and whatever. I worked with her for a while.
It was so dark. It was so dark and so scary. And I felt like for me, I was holding on to something. I didn't
part of you.
Yes. I was like, what? I was gripping and my body felt like it was betraying me. And I didn't understand it because similar to you, I had a smooth pregnancy, thankfully. Again, natural conception, like nothing out of the norm that would have triggered, in my mind, something.
Yeah.
It felt really off, like, I'm like, how can this happen like 3 or 4 months after I have the baby? Like, I couldn't understand it.
It can happen. It's just like, I think it's like, obviously I'm not a medical professional. I'm sure it's a bunch of like just hormonal stuff. Like you just lose it. And I'm very open about it with women in my community. And many people have also sought out medication. I'm not a big medication person. Like, I don't even take Tylenol. I mean, if I'm really sick, obviously I'll take something, but I typically don't, just because I would like to let my body fight through stuff. But yeah, I know a lot of women who've got on anxiety meds after birth. I know so many, like, I've heard of so many horrifying birth stories, bodies being messed up for the rest of their lives, unfortunately. And I just don't think there's enough openness of women talking about these things, especially career-oriented women, because we have the construct of whatever society tells us, whatever culturally, you know, these narratives that are instilled in us. But again, if I knew, if there was better sense of agency and choice, not that there wasn't, but just knowing what would be ahead and if this could be a more openly talked about topic, so that is normalized. Because now I always go back and forth on this in my head. Like, we used to live in villages. And so we were always immersed in diverse age ranges. And what I loved when I was here at Huntington for the Lunar New Year Festival was every experience we went through, whether it was like, was it like the lion dancing? They had Kung Fu presentations. They had Korean dancers. It was very intergenerational. Many cultures are structured in a very intergenerational way. And right now we're living in America. We're living in our beautiful homes. We're living in our whatever. It's extremely isolating. And I feel like if I was more so in an environment, I mean, I grew up in church and I did take care of like young kids sometimes during Bible studies, but never like infants. I don't know. But there's just this lack of close connection with older people, aunties, grandmas, all this kind of stuff around you throughout your entire life, there were moments of my life where I had characters like that written, but there's just a huge lack of it.
There is. So I want to pull the thread on like, even if, so, I had the good fortune of having my mom live with me for a good number of years, 8 years, to help me raise my children. And the layer I want to put on that, though, is that the Asian experience, talk about not talking about it. So my mom helped me physically, but she couldn't understand what was happening because she didn't experience it. And there's this level of
she forgot. I feel like many women
she might have
buried it into the depths of their
a soul
memory.
But also her experience was complete. She had children at home because you had to, like in the whatever, back in the 70s, like sure, there was a hospital, but many women had their kids at home. And so that's her experience. And so I can see now, my mom passed 6 years ago, to like have her witness me go through that. I think there was a big disconnect. Even though I had her around, it was still very isolating. Because again, it's not talked about. I didn't know how to express it to her.
You don't know. No, most women don't. I think we don't even know what we're going through, let alone being able to put into words. There were some women, thankfully, when I was going through all that also shared similar experiences, but there were very few that experienced it to the extreme that I did.
I agree with you. More conversations need to be had in an open way. So, how is that for a cliffhanger for you? What jumped for me in this really real conversation with Sophia are three main things: mindset, agency, and postpartum. And in our conversation, Sophia said, if we normalize this topic about mental health and wellness and postpartum and the ways for me that it really untethered me and felt like such an isolating and dark night of the soul, if we talked about it more and helped women realize that they're not alone and that there are ways through it, I think that's what I really wanted you all to hear. That more conversations need to be had in an open way, especially for those of us that are trying to juggle it all and are used to doing it all. So if this is you, I see you. Of course, this is not medical advice, and this conversation isn't meant to be in lieu of talking to a professional and a mental health professional or your doctors about any of the physical, emotional things that you might be going through yourself. It is really meant to help bring this important conversation around the very different postpartum experiences that women go through, and to ensure that you know that you're not alone through this and that there is help. So again, this isn't medical advice. I do have a PhD. I am a doctor in organizational psychology, not an MD. So just putting that out there. And I want you to stay tuned for the second drop with Sophia, where in this first conversation, we talked all about postpartum and mindset work, which I'm very passionate about. My second book, The Aligned Mindset, was all about that. And leaning into agency and the things that we have control over. The second conversation that's dropping August 19th with Sophia is going to be about risk taking and saying yes and taking the opportunities to build a really thriving career from the ground up. So you're not going to want to miss that. In the meantime, leave a review, please, if you loved it. If you didn't, don't leave a review. Definitely follow, because I will bring forward more conversations that need to be had in redefining what it means to be a modern Asian female. And share this conversation with your work wives, with your bestie, with your family WhatsApp conversation that you have going on. Share it, because I know that the more that we share these conversations, the more it will help the women that need to hear it. And I'm going to invite you to check out Ever 10, which is my whole wellness ecosystem designed to support you with products for thriving. I'm going to drop soon a flow journal, so stay tuned for that and sign up for the newsletter so you're the first to know. Until then, be well.